My name is Lisa Scheidler. I'm the office coordinator at the Rose Center, and we welcome you here. We're in downtown Morristown, and the Rose Center was originally the Rose School and opened in 1892 as a coeducational school. It's currently operating as a cultural arts center for a 6-county area.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my exhibit at the Rose Center in Morristown. My name is Susan Roberts, and I'm an artist. I'm usually a painter, drawer, 2D person. I teach full-time at Walters State, and I am from Morristown. I've been here, this is my 5th year. Prior to that, I was in Gatlinburg for a year at Arrowmont School of Arts and Crafts as a resident artist, and I'm originally from Alabama, Tuscaloosa and Anniston. So there's a little background for you. I'm going to talk to you about several of my paintings today, and I wish you were here. I'd answer your questions. So I'll try to touch on things that I think you might consider interesting. This painting is very recent. I did it this past August in 2013, and it's called Emerging World. It is an acrylic painting on paper, and several of the works in here are on paper, some are on canvas. So I really love to work on paper because I love the surface of the paper, and I do a lot of things to the paper to prepare it before I even start making the painting on it. So for instance, I gesso my paper, and then I sand it, and then I gesso it again, and then I sand it again, and then I put some layers of thin medium on it that cause the paint to kind of scoot and drip more on it. So when I painted this painting, I painted it on the wall, and I'm messy. I like to let it drip. I don't mind if the paint drips. I like to let gravity pull it down. So it doesn't really fly everywhere, but it will drip down on the floor. So inspiration is from Morristown. It's kind of looking out into some of the lakes around here. We see things around in these lakes that are interesting. I love the edge of the water line. This is another acrylic on paper. This one is several years old, like about 5 years ago, when I was living in Gatlinburg. It is called Feeding, and it's obviously about the butterflies. I think that I'm very attracted to nature, and I love processes in nature, like the whole idea of birth and then life, and then the beauty of things as they're also dying, so that's okay with me. When I did this piece, I found some real butterflies that were dried, and I would put them in a little clip and hold them up and turn them and draw them and paint from them. I also planned this painting. I don't always do this. I didn't plan the first one I talked about, but this one I did plan in sketch form, and I knew what it was going to look like to a point. And so it is acrylic. It's done in a similar way where the layers are built up, and they are gathered on this sort of amorphous object that we don't really know what it is. It's sort of an uncertain thing. And that's okay, because nature is beautiful, but it can cause destruction. So sometimes we recognize both things. I'm going to talk about this painting now. It's another acrylic on paper, and in this case it's not framed, and you might be interested to know that it's hung with magnets, neodymium magnets, which are very strong. There's one on the front, one on the back. This painting is inspired by a photograph that my son made. So it's in a way a collaboration between my son and myself. But I worked from that photograph, and I split the paper into this long piece. It's 8 feet long. This one is obviously a waterscape, and I had a plan to build up opposite or complementary colors, and then working back into those. And so I very much was thinking of nature, however, it kind of comes out looking like just a vision. So I called it Clear Vision Lake Number 1. And I think that I like to work with really watery paint. I like watercolor. And then I also like thick paint. So there's places where it's kind of globbed on thicker in lots of really rapid brush strokes. But then there are places where I just dragged it out and let it puddle and get really thin. So there's different kinds of qualities of paint, and I use a lot of acrylic mediums in the paint. So I call this painting Purge, and when I do these sort of otherworldly looking pieces, it's okay with me if people think of them as really tiny floating things that could be anywhere in space. They could be floating in water, or they could be floating in air. And I think of them as small separate worlds above our world, like different worlds, or states of consciousness, or different ways that your mind might create another world. So this one is like an entity to itself, and it is it's kind of overindulged, and it is purging itself of that. And so it has these kind of openings in it like this, and then it's kind of rock-like over in here. And all of this comes out of my mind, and then sometimes I look at natural things to get ideas. I also rely on drawings I've made. I draw a lot, and sometimes I do realistic drawings of nature objects, very real. Then I will take those and use parts of those in my paintings. So this could be a combination of drawings, photographs, and real objects that I might look at. And right here, it's kind of like these little things are popping out of this big one, and it's okay, it's like it's making babies. It's like a hopeful painting. So if it looks like it's dripping and sort of creepy and kind of breaking down, it's also hopeful because it's emitting new ones, which is the other side of it. And it's kind of a funny painting, actually. Sometimes my stuff makes me laugh because I think that it becomes an object that is purging itself, and it sometimes can mirror our society and mirror us as people in America. This piece is called Altered Structure, and I think of this as the structure that's sort of another one of those floating worlds, and then it has this deep space ground around it. And the lines that are there make reference to some old topography maps that I found in a thrift store in Alabama, actually near where I grew up. But they're not an exact copy, and it doesn't matter where they're really from. They just reference maps of anywhere on the world, because I love maps. And it gives you an idea of place and makes you think of the earth, but it doesn't matter where it is. It could be anywhere. So it gives you an idea of place, that this is really floating somewhere that's a real place. This one has thick, real detailed kind of painted areas, real thick paint up in there that's jumping around, and then really thick, washy areas. This one's even got some white ink in it. I'm going to talk about this painting. This one is called Euphoria, and it is acrylic on canvas, and actually it is a diptych, which means it's two canvases. So that's the first canvas, and they're hung right together, and the painting goes across them. And so then you can make one canvas and then make another and hang them together and make a long shape. So this painting is like a floating world, And it's also got a distant world behind it, and then kind of space below it, which is kind of this drippy, earthy root area. And then you can see all kinds of plants and flowers that are some straight out of my head, like imaginary, and some that refer to real things that might grow in the Smoky Mountains. I really love the Smoky Mountains, and this is part of the mountains, and I've done some hiking up there and sometimes take pictures, so those things feed into the work. This is like an area where everything is so lush and rich and beautiful that it's things like, this is an Indian pipe, which actually is a flower in the deep woods that I remember from Alabama, where I'm from. And then the pink lady slipper is in here, which is a special wildflower from the mountains. And Jack in the pulpit are in here too. So it's also about the paint. I love paint. I love to layer it and see the glow of the colors coming through. And when you do a painting like that, it's a slow process. It actually comes from the Renaissance era, from the 1500s. It's a process where they used oil paint, but they layered up thin colors, one on top of the next, till they got the color they wanted. And I do that, but I do it in acrylic. So might be something that you want to try sometimes. Now this piece right here is a watercolor painting, and it is realism. So I'm actually sitting outside looking at a garden and painting from the actual plants right there. And then I actually also worked on it some more after I got home and got inside. I had a picture of it that I helped finish it out. But a painting like this, that's very, very real, then it feeds into a painting like this, where I can let the flowers become more of an imaginary world. So when I make a study of the real garden and learn what it really looks like, I have to really work hard to get all of the depth and the right angles and everything, but it teaches me how to then use that I've learned from realism in my more imaginative looking work. And my drawings are the same way. So I've done a lot of drawing of realism, nature objects, people, landscapes, everything. Then I kind of let that go and can let that feed into my other work. So.